In this video, I'm going to show you what it looks like when you apply level and plumb lines in a more complex manner. And when I say complex, basically I mean when you apply a lot of them. In the previous video, we only applied about 3 sighting lines or reference lines. And in this one, I'm asking you in the assignment to try to get 15 to 20 lines in it. So I want to show you what that looks like in a completed exercise like this. But first, just so you know what's going on, I'm showing you my setup here. I've got my objects arranged according to the instructions. 5 objects. 1 object has been placed well forward of the others, this apple. There's a good 12 inches or so here between it. So I think that's, it makes for an interesting problem for you. So that's basically what I was looking at when I made the drawing. And you can see part of the drawing over here, which I've already completed. So now that you have an idea of what I was looking at, let's take a look at the drawing itself. This is an example of a completed assignment. I didn't want to go through the whole thing on the video because it would end up being too long. I set the timer and found that it took me about 20 minutes or so. I'm expecting that it will take you longer just because you need to increase your familiarity with the whole process, but I do want you to apply 15 to 20 lines. Okay, so now I'm set back here so you can see the entire drawing. And what I want to point out to you right now is what you can see is when you step back, the sighting lines, the reference lines are really pretty subtle so that you can see the drawing, that you can kind of look and see, okay, did I get a convincing structure on my cylinder? Is my sphere round? Is the book or rectilinear forms, are they looking like they're constructed well, the bottle and so on? And you can kind of judge easily the size and placement of things. So that's the end result. But what's important here is, along with the end result, is the process that's going on, the use of the sighting lines. And so I'm going to zoom in here, and we're going to take a look at, first let's take a look at the apple, and I'll show you, that's an area that I had to make some big changes on, so it's a good example. If you take a look at it closer now, you'll see that my first attempt was pretty small, and it was shifted over to the right quite a bit. I made a third attempt, moved it over some, kept it about the same size, and then I realized as I was striking these lines and checking them, on the still life, I realized my apple was way too small, so I had to make it bigger. So dropping these lines down, what I did is I dropped them down from the bottle to see how they related to the apple, and that helped me understand how to move that apple and how to change its size as well. Other vertical lines, other vertical reference lines that I used in this drawing over here, in setting up the can and the sphere, I just drop a line down on this side, on either side to kind of help me place this relationship. And then sometimes, taking this line up this way, it's kind of an empty corner here, but sometimes you can draw a line up here and get a sense of what's the distance there, We're going to learn about how to sight that more accurately, but right now you can just keep it an intuitive sort of approach to it. So, that's okay to do that in this one. I also used horizontal reference lines to check things. I noticed that right along here a lot of important stuff, a lot of important relationship information was happening because I had the corner of the book, I had the top of the apple, I have the lower ellipse of the cylinder, the far corner of the book is all happening in kind of a narrow range. So it was very useful to strike lines across from various points to find out what was going on. So for example, here and here, top of the apple, bottom of the ellipse, this corner taken across. Those are all landmarks points in the still life that you can use to strike lines from and learn new information. You can see I had a little bit of an issue over here trying to get that corner correct, but I managed to work it out pretty well, I think. I made a couple of changes, maybe 3 changes there. You can see over here I reached what I would call like a saturation point. It's just so thick with lines that it's kind of hard to tell what's going on. But when that happens, don't get frustrated. Just leave it as evidence of the work that you've done. I want to see that kind of thing. If you give me a drawing that ends up just too pristine and too precious, I'm going to be suspicious about it, that you're not following the instructions, because this, is meant to be done relatively quickly. I did this in about 20 minutes. It'll probably take you longer, and as you gain confidence and experience in using this whole process, you'll get faster at it. So that's what it looks like. You can expect to end up with a drawing of the still life where changes have been made. They might be subtle, they might be a little more obvious, but you're going to have a kind of this grid. It's not a regular grid at all. It's all based on the particular points you have in the still life. But you're going to have these lines that go across it that are about your using those lines to find new information in the objects that you're seeing before you. It's all meant to help you sharpen your perception. But I also want to point out, while this is kind of a measurable process, citing things and having those lines as a way to gauge where things are and how big they are, there's also the possibility that you'll find that as you go through this, you're going to want to switch back into kind of an intuitive mode sometimes when the reference lines aren't really giving you information that you think you see. I mean, we want to trust our eye, and we want to trust the marks that we have, but sometimes when we draw something it doesn't quite look right, and we need to make an intuitive change. So for example, in this drawing, when I drew the bottle, I found that I was done. I thought I was done, and I looked at the bottle, and I'm just saying to my eye is just telling me it's too wide. It's too wide. And maybe it's such a subtle change it wouldn't make sense to try to strike a line. So what I did was I decided, well, I'm just going to bring it in a little bit on this side. I'm going to bring it a little bit in on that side. And it gave the whole bottle just a little bit more slender proportion than what I had before. And to my eye, it just looked more correct with what I was seeing in the still life. So while we use all these reference lines to help us see, we also want to remember that we can occasionally switch back to intuitive mode and trust our eye to make changes in the process as well. So I hope you have fun with this and that you see the value in using these lines to understand the relationships better in observational drawing. Thank you.